Hey guys, what's going on? It's Trinity Volk here, and I know people have wanted to hear what my feelings are about MK1, NRS, the community, and what I think about where it stands right now. So this is a video. It's going to be a pretty rambly vlog kind of video. You're gonna watch me just bullshitting, doing post-game grinding stuff in like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Um, what we talking about? So, as everyone at this point well knows, things are good in the NRS scene, really. And I am willing to now admit this as someone who has been more positive on the game than most. And I think we could all agree the game is not the problem. It's the way that WB seems to hamstring NRS in terms of what they can say and how much effort they can really put in at a time into the game. And it's really unfortunate now what's happening. Um, so there is a problem I have, though, with the way that people do talk about things to some extent regarding the game, and it's the fact um, that it feels like a lot of the doomerism to me is rooted in a cynical, like, it's just people trying to get views and coverage. I actually have to be honest, I don't know how many of these people really care that MK1 is in the States in. Because we all know negativity, especially in the NRS scene, gets views. And I'm not saying that to accuse like any of my friends, like Tom, or anything, just trying to capitalize on that. But it is hard because of the way the communities kind of feed off each other in some periods. What is like really the doomerism? Like people really feel like things are that bad, or people are just wound up because everybody else is wound up. Um, Now, don't get me wrong. Things are pretty bad. Um, like the game is kind of in need of a balancing overhaul. The only problem is, and I actually be curious. I want people in the comments to actually voice what it is that you want to see rebalanced about this game, because I keep seeing people say either like stupid, unrealistic shit like remove cameos, right? Which is dumb. Like if you're someone who's like you just wanted a completely different game, I'm sorry, you're like an idiot. You need to stop living in dreamland, bro. The game's never gonna change like that. And I don't think it has to, because I actually do think the foundation of MK1 is very good. And it's my favorite MK so far. It just sucks that, you know, being someone that likes other fighting games too, MK just feels like it's consistently the only franchise where there's always a but attached to anything, right? Like the gameplay is really good, but it has balancing problems. The support's not all that great. The DLC schedule is really bare bones. Like there are problems, and there are certain characters that just should not be allowed to exist as they are. Obviously, Kenshi is a big problem, even though I think Kenshi is not as unfair as some people say. And I might make a video about that. He is unfair. The way Sento currently works is just terrible design. There's nothing there's nothing outplayable about Sento, right? Now, you can outplay the Kenshi before that point, but the problem is it just doesn't feel good when you can outplay somebody for fucking the whole match and all they have to do is hit you with one mid, one of the best mids in the game, by the way. Like, almost no one can whip punish that thing, and that's all it takes for you to lose, right? Now, whether or not anyone would care if everyone kind of played that kind of game, like if you just got touched, you were dead, maybe people wouldn't mind as much, but I don't think we want an MKX situation. Like, I don't think anybody wants to play a game again where, like, you get clipped by one Liu Kang fireball from full screen, you lost 70% of your life, right? I don't think anybody's trying to go back to that either. But yeah, there are problems. The problem is no one seems to have any actual useful things to say. As far as like what can be done to improve the game, especially when it comes to balancing. I keep hearing people say, overhaul the game, rework the cameo system, blah blah blah, and no one is even making any videos about specific changes. I can make videos easily about specific things about the game that should be changed. Like, I think it's obvious, for example, that no one likes using ambushes to make something safe that shouldn't be, right? And which it makes it seem obvious to me that then they need to find a way to put in, like, let's say a lockout system where if you do something and it's so negative, you just can't use a cameo, right? I think that ambushes to extend pressure are completely fine, but there's obviously a problem right now with the way that things are handled in that regard, right? Especially when the moves that are being made safe with cameos are super high reward. Like Raiden Superman, for example, is like, it's one of the craziest neutral tools in an MK game, period. I know people think that might be a crazy statement, but like, think about it, it's a full screen, potentially Armageddon option that's unreactable and neutral in the first place, and if you block it, he's plus, and he gets to pressure you and do like 10% chip on top of it, right? I think a lot of people are pretty much in agreement that you should just not be able to make an unsafe move safe. Now, I know there are some people who feel like that would ruin the spirit of the game, and that is because there's a lot of people who I think have an obsession with looking at it as a tag game. And I do not think MK1 is a tag game, and I do not think we want a tag game. If you're someone who is complaining about like being able to use cameos to make things safe, then you are delusional if you're asking for a tag game, because that is all you want then, is shit like Raiden. Because that's all tag games are. And I say this honestly, like, I have fun with tag-based fighting games, but I do think they're kind of trash competitively. I thought DBZ was trash, and even though Marvel is fun to watch, it's also trash in my opinion. I would never play it seriously myself. Like it just doesn't, it's not deep enough to interest me, right? Tag games just seem to be for people who, they just want combos, right? They like long combos and they just want to set play each other, and that's boring, right? Like I really find there's no character individuality in tag games. It all amounts to the same thing, which is long combos and set play, and the combos are also boring to look at because they're usually loops, right? So yeah, I don't think we want a tag game, bro. We don't want a tag game. If I really would like to hear, though, from you guys, whoever watches this. I want you to give me specific mechanical or character balance changes that you think need to happen in the game. I mean, I can tell you one, for example. Storm Cell should not be able to be nearlessly covered with a cameo, right? I think that he should have to spend meter every time if he wants to do it safe. Him having to spend meter alone would have a big impact on how good Storm Cell is. Another example of this is like Johnny Cage's Shadow Kick. Johnny Cage probably shouldn't have any defensive options at all. He probably should not have an armor move, and he shouldn't have an invincible move because he is so oppressive otherwise when he gets his turns. And this is the problem too, is that a lot of people in our scene are not willing to take the hits to their playstyles that are required for the game to flourish. Like, if a lot of people, they get super dramatic about it and they say, what I just said about Johnny Cage would kill him, the character would be useless, bottom one, impossible to play. If that's how you feel, if you really don't think you can work with the way Johnny Cage is just without that one thing that is currently, overriding his supposed weaknesses as a rushdown character, then you do not care about the game getting better. You do not give a single shit about this game getting better. And I'm going to call it like it is when I say that. If you're a Johnny Cage player who is at all intellectually honest, you know something needs to give with that character. It doesn't matter that he's not winning consistently. He's like a meta-defining character that defines who you can play in tournament right now, because he is so oppressive to the certain types of characters. It's like the same thing with Quan Chi, right? I tried to be optimistic about Quan Chi, but he just isn't good, and he's just not good because NRS played it too safe, and it's really not their fault. I'm going to be honest here. Yes, they made the character the way he is, but they did it because so many people just do not want to learn how to outplay his owner. That's good. And that's frustrating. Like, you just don't hear these complaints in other scenes, right? Like, Street Fighter, zoners are pretty much allowed to exist. Like, they may not be the best archetype, but what they do isn't, like, just markedly inferior to what everyone else is doing. There's nothing like that. In MK games, 11 and 1, you're just inferior just by virtue of being a zoner, and that just shouldn't be the case. Now, there are people, of course, who don't think zoners should exist, and you're a fucking idiot if you think that. Because all you want is everyone to be a rushdown mix-up character, and that is kind of my perception of the scene, unfortunately, is that is all the majority wants. And that's my problem, is I understand, like, Tom wanting to give guys like Fate a platform to talk about their feelings about the game, but Fate is absolutely the wrong voice to be listening to. If guys like Fate had their way, everyone would be Johnny Cage. Everyone would. Because, yeah, like, too many people are wrapped up in what will cost them money in tournaments, what will be annoying to them to play against. Like, that's a big problem we have in our scene, is that there are people who don't want certain characters to be good because it would be annoying to deal with, right? Or they would have to, like, actually learn. And I think that is a big problem that we have in our scene right now, is we have a problem with our players just do not want to actually learn. They don't want to refine a craft of being good at the game. They just want to make easy money. And I know people will say, but the competition is tough, and, like, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. If the game is easily solvable, that does make it easy to win at consistently, right? Like, yeah, it may come down to slight fundamental differences between you and another player at the highest level, but if the game is easily solvable, there's not much to learn. You kind of know what's going on. You know easily what you can do to mitigate certain problems you're having, and that's also kind of a problem that is part of the problem is MK just doesn't have the depth required to be really competitive in a way that's worthwhile. So what do I mean by like in depth? Well, people are really high on Tekken 8 right now, right? Including me. I'm pretty in love with Tekken 8, and I'm going to make content about the game too. But the thing about Tekken is that the back and forth has so many options to it, and so many mind games behind it, that it really is like a chess match. The problem with MK is that you'll just have this character has a string that fully jails and is plus at the end of it, and that's it. Right? An example I keep liking to reference is Johnny Cage in MK11. So he had 1-2-4 and 1-2-1, right? So 1-2-1 was negative on block, but was special cancelable, and it gave you a small combo. But you had 1-2-4, which ended in a high, but the high just completely jailed. So there was no mind game there. And that's an example of a thing that should have been there. You should have been able to duck the last hit of 1-2-4 on the read so that they would have to mix up with 1-2-1 into a special move, right? And they would have to potentially risk being punishable because they committed to doing 1-2-1 the special move. That's the kind of stuff MK needs. And they're trying their hardest to do more of that. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job of adding more armor gaps and more things that become punishable because you flawless block, but it's still not enough. There needs to be, less safety, first of all. I think it's a big problem in NK that most things are just safe. They don't have gaps, and they're not negative enough to be punished, so you can just do them. There needs to be less safety in MK games. There needs to be more gaps in strings. There needs to be more holes, like more places you can duck, more places where you can jump over a low, things like that. And I might try and make a video sometime down the line to try to have actual visual examples of what I'm talking about, but I'll have to really figure out how I'm going to make that video to really make my point. So I'm also going to talk about what I would do right now to the game. So on a fundamental level, I think that cameos either need shorter cooldowns or they need more uses. So right now the standard is kind of, you have summons and ambushes, and you typically have 2-to-1 summons or ambushes, depending, right? So how do I put this otherwise? Let me think. Okay, so personally, I'm in the camp of I think there should be more uses. I do think that there should be cooldowns that are notable. I do not like the idea of having fast cooldowns because then that it just makes the decision making mindless again, right? But I would like the idea of high value moves being 2 uses and low value moves being 4. So I would be okay, for example, with Lao Hat being a 4-use move, right? But having a longer cooldown. And in the same way, he can use teleport twice. I would give him back the invincible hat spin reversal it launches. I also thought that was kind of a failure of NRS that they just took that away. That shouldn't have been taken away because that was the thing that kind of made that cameo unique compared to others. I really did like it that that's what they choose to do with that. So what else can I think of? Well, like Tremor. Tremor's my favorite cameo in the game, and he's obviously good, but I just think it would be better for the game if he could do his ambushes 4 times, if he could do, or his ambushes 2 times, and he could do the summons 4 times. Um, and then, you know, if you need to readjust or rebalance things after that, that's fair enough. But I do think there's a problem with it's a combination of NRS playing it too safe and the player base doesn't actually want the game to be more crazy. Um, but I also think that some people have got it wrong. That the thing is that MK1 is not power heavy enough. Because you can easily go the other way and kill the game that way, and we don't want that to happen either. So yeah, I really like the game. I want it to be the best it can be. Right now, it's really not looking like we can even have an idea if it's ever going to meet that potential for obvious reasons. Um, so, yeah, I just, aside from that, I just don't know what to do at this point. Um, I'm kind of, you know, I still play the game, but I'm not as enthralled about it as I was before because of the game's problems and because like there's nothing to get better at right now, right? The game is solved, the meta is pretty set in stone, and yeah, um, I just don't know what we can do. All we can do is make our opinions known to NRS and try to do so in a constructive way that hopefully ends up being legitimately productive. Um, that's part of my problem right now with the scene, of course, is that it just seems like people are performatively complaining. I do kind of feel like that right now. I do not feel like people are voicing the things they're voicing because they want the game to improve. Um, I think a lot of people are doing it because it gets views, and a lot of people are doing it because they just want something to complain about. Um, and I don't know what to do with that. Um, and that is a problem. The mentality of our player base has to change. They have to be willing to lose, and they have to be willing to have to do the work to actually get good. Like, it's not that I think the top NRS players aren't good fighting game players. They obviously are, but you do see how much harder of a time they have being dominant because with their fundamentals. Like, I think it's relatively obvious, for example, in Tekken 8, a rookie player coming from Street Fighter is on another level from a rookie a rookie T8 player coming from MK. There's a world of difference. And that just has to be acknowledged. I know on the latest podcast, Tom really wanted to make the point that we actually do have a talented player base. And we do to some extent, but we're held back by the games in themselves. We just are. Because the games don't actually demand enough of us as players. They just don't. And that's not the player's fault, obviously. That's NRS for not making a game meant to last. That brings me to my final point, of course, is that at the end of the day, I just don't even know if there's a point in having any of this discussion. Because it is so obvious at this point that they just don't seem to have the ability to do the right thing. It just seems like they don't. And I really don't think it is their fault. Um, People really are not considering how different of a corporate atmosphere that they're in. They are not anywhere in the same kind of level of flexibility as a Capcom or Bandai Namco is. Because Bandai Namco, for example, they just have a direct team that is part of the base company, and there's just a different culture, right? It's a game company. It's not a multimedia conglomerate that's a giant corporation. And that makes a difference. Same for Capcom, right? They're just a game company. At the end of the day, that's what the only thing they do. And so there aren't the same, like, insane layers of bureaucracy to go through. That's a reality that we have to reconcile it to. And so that kind of leaves me feeling like I don't know if there's anything that can be done unless NRS broke away from WB. And honestly, this might sound like kind of a controversial thing to say. I think if they really gave a shit about their IP in the game, they would be willing to separate from WB, lose the Mortal Kombat IP, and start over with like a spiritual successor. Because that really seems like the only actual path for them. And obviously, like, right now it sounds like a fantasy to even think about such a thing, right? So, yeah. I just don't know. So, I think I'm going to cut the video there. But I really want to know what you guys are thinking. And I want to know what you guys have thoughts-wise as far as what you think about what I said. Because, yeah. I'm still going to make content for the game. I've started the cameo review series. I'm going to keep doing that because I don't have to play the game actively right now to do that because I played almost every cameo pretty extensively. So I can make that content without even having to really engage with the game as far as playing it full time. And I am going to make Tekken 8 content because I'm having a lot of fun with Tekken. I'm playing Victor. I feel like so far a lot of people have not been shocked that's the character I'm playing. And yeah, go figure. I played the footsie character that really blows you up for being like rhythmically predictable, and that's what Victor does in that game. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. I really would like to know what you guys think. And do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Or do you guys really think there's just no point in even giving a shit anymore at this point? And I would not blame you if you don't think there's a point in giving a shit anymore. There's legitimacy to that feeling. So, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share the video around if you, like what I had to say here. See you later.